This podcast is going to talk about how to use a content-specific application for your class. The content-specific application that I'm going to be using is shown here, and it's called edRNA. This particular application is useful for students that are learning about the cell cycle. And it's a really good app because it allows you to differentiate instruction for students that need a little more time or a little less time in specific areas. The first area is called the cell cycle. And this just gives each student a little overview of what's happening during the cell cycle. And each of these actually expands out to provide descriptions for each of these phases. So this is written content, but it allows students to go at their own pace, and it also provides a graphic organizer or a visual for them to be able to see how long these phases last compared to each other. And whenever you're finished in any of these sections, you can just go back to home. Another area that's really nice is the steps of mitosis, which is also known as karyokinesis, and that's the division of the nucleus. And there's a nice animation over here, and it allows the students to go through each of the phases at their own pace. And there's a lot of information that's contained within each of those phases. And just to give you an idea, you have prophase, prometaphase, and so forth. For students, and you may include questions that they need to answer or some sort of foldable or other activity that they need to work on while going through this application. But for students who finish, for students who may be a little bit more advanced, there is this news component, which just ties the information that they're learning about with current content, current events, things that are happening in science that are actually applicable to the particular content that you're currently studying. Information like how this particular content area is associated with abortion, cell reproduction studies, things that are happening in the news, and these are coming from New York Times articles. And then again, you can go back to the home page. There's also information here that describes mitosis and cancer cells. So this could be something that you use for the whole class, or it might be an enhancement for students who are struggling from other content that you're covering, talking about cell cycle regulation. And there's a lot of really good information in there as well. There's also a YouTube video tied to this particular application, which is really nice. These applications can actually tie to, because they are online, they can tie to other online resources that students can use. Another thing that I like about this application is the quiz option, which you can use as a pre-test or a post-test, but the most fantastic thing about it is that it can actually provide immediate feedback. Students, when they have filled out the entire quiz, can click continue to reveal the answers. So they get immediate feedback letting them know where they are still struggling, and if they are still struggling in a particular area, they can go back within this application and study that particular portion again. And like with the YouTube video, you can tie this application with other online resources. The practice actually takes students to a site that I also use in my classroom called Quizlet, which is a really good resource. But this will specifically talk about a vocabulary that is associated with this particular content area, mitosis and the cell cycle. And for anybody not familiar with this application, it's a way to study vocabulary. So if I want to know what interphase is, I can test myself, and then to check to make sure, I just click on it and it tells me what it is. And then I can move on to the next vocabulary term. And there are all kinds of content-specific applications that can be used within your own content area that have lots and lots of different options depending on what it is that you're willing to do in your classroom.